Yeah. A big part of why they came out was to protest funding cuts to science and medical research and USAID.
Does it matter that the protesters don't seem to have one single issue or one single change that they're demanding?
Yeah, my colleague Emma Bowman asked that question to David Karp, a professor who studies political communication at George Washington University. And his answer was that in normal times, having different names and different purposes can, really weaken a movement. But he also added that we're not living in ordinary times.
Juliana, thanks so much.
Thank you.
NPR's Juliana Kim.
WNYC support comes from Manhattan Theater Club, presenting Stephen Sondheim's Old Friends, a great big Broadway show. Bernadette Peters and Lea Salonga lead this celebration of Sondheim's music and musicals, now playing at the Samuel J. Friedman Theater. Tickets at oldfriendsbroadway.com. City Harvest, who are on the road every day rescuing 77 million pounds of nutritious food a year for New Yorkers in need, transforming surplus food into sustenance and sustainability. That's how they feed good. More at cityharvest.org.
Fewer pharmacies will be making weight loss drugs, what that means for consumers.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. Customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto. Learn more about bundling at progressive.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore in for David Brancaccio. When the Food and Drug Administration determined there was a shortage of weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, it allowed a special type of pharmacy to step in and make them. Compounding pharmacies usually make specifically tailored drugs for patients, but they were allowed to step in as kind of mini manufacturers to help boost supply. The shortage is now officially over, and as a result, under federal law, many of those pharmacies will have to stop selling their own versions of these drugs starting tomorrow. Marketplace's Samantha Fields has more on what this means for consumers.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com. And by This Old House Radio Hour podcast, answering listeners' DIY and renovation questions and diving into home design trends, available in podcast apps.
All right, we'll try that one more time. Marketplace's Samantha Fields has more on weight loss drugs.
It felt great because it kind of just allowed us to turn the page. And as a family, we went up there. The kids went out of school. The crew was excellent. We brought them lunch one day as a family. We just let them know how thankful we are for what they're doing. And so it was a big moment for us, again, to take that next step.
But you're running the numbers, for instance, on a somewhat innovative construction approach. It involves plastic that's very insulated, but it's modular?
So it's a panel system that it's 3D paneling, and they come in just large sheets, and it's like a big Lego. You drop them, connect them to your foundation, and then you add concrete on the outside, on both the inside and the outside of the home. So you in a sense have a 4 or 5 inch structure in the middle that is fire resistant insulation, and then you have rebar, and then you have about 1.5 inches of concrete that's on both sides. So you have a fairly large, thick wall that is fully I hate to say fireproof, but could withstand a fire.
What about the roof?
The roof is the same material. So the company that we're using or looking at, what really intrigued me with them is that the ability to build the roof and have the high walls, and again give the home the same aesthetics as if you were building with a wood frame home. We're really just fleshing out the different ideas, because then I could just make a modification to the plans and the structural plans. But
you don't think you're going to freak them out with this new construction technique?
It's not so much new on our end. It's been around. The big question is how experienced these guys are in reviewing things like this. And so this is the one opportunity we all have to take a step back and see, is there a better way to build that home? And if it is, what does that mean from a dollars perspective? What does it mean from a value real estate perspective? And what does it mean, from an investment standpoint, And so if we can just have those questions, or if you can be able to communicate with people that have some of those answers, everyone will make their own decision which direction they're going to go.
What are you hearing about building materials? There's more than 6,000 structures just in this fire that have to be built. It's a time when we may or may not have tariffs, depending on which day we're at. There must be a lot of demand, and with demand is higher prices.
I think as a builder, the only thing we could do is try to stay ahead of that. Try to figure out as early as possible the direction you're going to build. All our lots are dead, open dirt. And so getting containers, buying material in advance, storing it, being strategic with what you can do, the sooner you can have a plan, the better it is.
Well, Lee Delaware, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
That was Marketplace's David Brancaccio speaking with homeowner Willie Delaware. A lot of international markets from Hong Kong to Germany are closed today for Easter, but U.S. markets are set to open at the regular time. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all down around 1%, with the Dow futures down 375 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is at 4.360%. And Temu and Shein say they will start raising prices starting next week as a result of tariffs, by the way, so get ready for that.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com. And by This Old House Radio Hour podcast, answering listeners' DIY and renovation questions and diving into home design trends, available in podcast apps.
When the Food and Drug Administration determined there was a shortage of weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, it allowed a special type of pharmacy to step in and make them. Compounding pharmacies usually make specifically tailored drugs for patients, but they were allowed to step in as kind of mini manufacturers to help boost supply. But the shortage is officially over, and as a result, many of these pharmacies will have to stop selling their own versions of these drugs starting tomorrow. Marketplace's Samantha Fields has more on what this means for consumers.
It can be hard to get these drugs covered by insurance, at least if they're just for weight loss rather than for diabetes. Cynthia Cox at the health policy nonprofit KFF says if you buy coverage through the marketplace,
then it's probably the case that your health plan is not going to cover these drugs.
You might have better luck if you work for a big company.
But still, less than 1 in 5 large employers covers these drugs for weight loss.
Medicare doesn't cover them at all, and Medicaid only does in certain states, which means lots of people are paying out of pocket, and the compounded drugs tend to be much cheaper. Rena Conti at Boston University's Questrom School of Business says with the shortage over, compounding pharmacies are supposed to stop making their own versions.
But there's a loophole. Compound pharmacies can sell drugs that have a slight reformulation.
They might start adding in vitamins or making different doses.
Blick Media.